Jermaine Griggs here, and if you want to know my thought process for transforming a manual task into an automated one, tune in to today's episode of Automation Mondays. Jermaine Griggs here, founder of Automation Clinic, and welcome to another edition of Automation Mondays, where every week, without fail, I take you through a new issue or question related to online marketing, lead generation, sales conversion, systems, automation, and a whole lot more. And in today's episode, I want to talk about what I call the MSA evolution. And what it really informs is how to take all the manual things, which is sort of the lowest level of productivity, and how to transform the things that are applicable, at least, into automated processes. So let's go right to our whiteboard and let's detail what this MSA process. This is something that I've been teaching my clients for a while now. And the M, obviously you've guessed it, stands for manual, right? And these are the things, and when I say manual, these are the things that each and every time you have to start all over. So ask yourself, what do you do in the run of a day? And I actually recommend this, journaling every task that you do in the run of a day. I mean, every little thing. Like if you stop to check email, take the time to write it down. And looking at what your R to P score is, right? And R to P stands for reactive to proactive. And basically, are you reacting to more things than you're proactively setting out to accomplish, right? Most of our days are filled with reactive, and what's worse, reactive manual stuff that we have to do ourselves, things that are not systemized or processed, if you will, and we have to start all over each and every time. And then they're also reactive, so they're looking back, we're responding to things, we're putting out fires, so it doesn't give us time to be proactive on the things ahead, the things that'll move the needles for our businesses. And typically, that's sales-related, marketing-related activities, if you ask me. So manual tasks are the lowest level forms of tasks, and this is what I call being in gear one, right? This is a term that I coined, and I got it. It's inspired by my own story. I remember when in HearAndPlay.com, my original business that I started in August 2000, right, with the vision to change the way the world learned music. And it's a site that teaches people how to play music by ear. And I started making money. I remember in 2002, we would do six figures that year, coming from where I came from, $70 in the bank to start this company, literally. And then 2 years later, there we are, making six figures out of my dorm room at the University of California, Irvine. And a year later after that, I remember getting my dream car, and I took it off the lot, and I'm on the freeway, and the thing starts roaring out of control. Like it won't get any faster, and the engine is just so loud, me not really knowing much about cars. So I take it back to the dealership, and the technician gets in the car, looks at it, he laughs, smirks, and says, "Sir, your knee must have hit the gear, but you moved it from automated mode, where, your engine just shifts gears for you, into manual mode, which means you have to do it yourself." And I was stuck in gear one, trying to go faster on the freeway in gear one. And it just doesn't work that way. And years later, it would hit me like an epiphany that not only was my business stuck in gear one, but so many entrepreneurs out there, their businesses are stuck in gear one. Gear one, you want it to go faster. You want this thing to move, but you're stuck in manual mode where you have to shift gears. And I asked, like, why would someone want to shift gears? Like, I'm an automated type of person. I'd rather, like, have my eyes on the road or listening to something productive. I just feel like that's a lot to do. Well, people want speed and control. They think that's how you get speed and control, by having to have your hands on everything and not trusting others to realize the growth and being able to trust others with some of the responsibility. So a lot of people are stuck in gear one. And one thing I learned about a car is that when you get to higher gears, that's what we all want in our businesses, right? So when you get to higher gears in a car, the engine actually slows down, right? But the wheels turn faster. In fact, gears 5, 6, the engine could be at half the speed of the wheels. Don't we all want that in our businesses, to be able to have this machine actually slow down in terms of like how much we're working ourselves, and we're getting tired and we're burned out, but we still want our wheels to turn faster. Well, getting out of manual mode, and how you do that is by looking at the things that you're doing and asking yourself, how many of these things can evolve to the next level, which is systems. And systems can be automated, but they don't have to be. Systems can also be manual, but the big difference is you do not start all over when you finally systematize something. I remember Tony Robbins telling a story about how, because he used to speak all over the world, still does, and just picking his suits that he wanted to wear for this engagement or that ended up just causing him a lot of worry and anxiety. And finally he said, let's systematize it. So they took pictures of his suit jackets and his slacks and his shirts. And like a catalog, he was able to say, give me combination, A2, 1B, right? So he took something as simple as his wardrobe, and he was able to turn it from this big chaotic mess. His assistant didn't know what he wanted to wear, and he had to start all over every time. So manual always leads to the problem starting all over, right? If you got to start all over and every time it's like, here we go. Even how you present your case to your new clients and prospects, how you orient new clients. Here we go. We got to start all over. Phone rings. You got to say that same sales pitch you've been saying for 15 years. Here we go. Because it's not in a leverageable form. It's not systematized. You can't take them down this process, and then that process can do the work instead of you doing it. And then when they do talk to you, they're further along the chain than you starting all over. So that's the difference. And even in Tony Robbins' wardrobe, hopefully that's clear to you, how you can take anything and turn it into a system. How your staff picks up the phone. If I call your business, do they pick up 10 different ways if I call 10 different times? Right? Or am I going to get the same experience each and every time? Now, I know there are different inputs and outputs and things, but how the conversations start. Is it scripted? Is your sales pitch scripted? Now, there are some times where I stand up here and I just free flow. But if I'm doing a sales video, something that needs to be persuasive, you better believe we got our teleprompter, we got our iPad, and I'm doing that thing word for word, because I'm not going to rely on my manual abilities for something that I can rely on a systematic way of presenting my persuasive case. So systems, I have a little acronym that I made up, okay? A system is very easy. It's something you stick to, right? Emphatically and methodically. That's how you know it's a system. This is going to take me a time to write, and I'm not a great writer. But something, just remember this. This is what a system is. Something you stick to, right? Emphatically and methodically. That's how you can call it a system. If it's not stuck to, and if you're not adamant about people sticking to it, it's not a system, There are processes in your office, processes that your team follow. How we do payroll, right? We've got the timesheets, and they're turned in on Tuesdays, Google Docs, but before, Here I am chasing people for their hours, and we're small business still, and I don't have a payroll department, but I'm chasing people for their hours, and that person's at lunch. That's not system, that's manual. That's start all over each time. All it takes is, it's not even harder to put a system in place. You just put a stake in the ground and you say, here's how we do things. Standard operating procedures. And when you hear that word, there's fancy processes for coming up with that. And I'm not talking about like big manuals that the Fortune 500 companies have, but just putting in stone how you do things. And that's one way to get out of gear one and into systems, right? And then the last sort of thing that you ascend to or evolve into is automated. And I'm the automated guy, right? I'm Infusionsoft Marketer of the Year. I live and breathe automations. I really think that's how my brain works. I look for what can be automated, and I'll be the first to tell you, not everything should be automated. Just because it can doesn't mean it should. But there are some systems that can ascend to then be automated, where a machine can handle it. And these are generally things that work with logic. If you can say if then this, if this, then that, if you can do that with it, and there are conditions that it doesn't take human emotion, right? It can be automated typically, right? There ought to be a button. I call it one button, right? One button. And we use Infusionsoft. And when someone calls in, we're pulling their record up. We know who they are. We're able to look at, what they've done, what they've bought, if they bought at all. And we're able to push a button after that interaction. If it's a good interaction and they bought, that button could send them an email from my staff saying, it was a pleasure speaking with you. It could out a postcard with our integration between Infusionsoft and send out cards. One button can do all of it. One button can not only send them an email saying, hey, it was a pleasure explaining our products to you. I know you're not ready now, but I'll be in touch in a couple of weeks to a month. And then in a couple of weeks to a month, it can out another email automatically from my sales team. That person has spoke with them saying, hey, I know I promised to get back in touch with you, just wondering if now is a better time for you. And then in conjunction with that, with our integration with TurboDial, and this is Infusionsoft specific, don't worry if you don't use Infusionsoft, the concept is what I want to share with you, right? And then it's sending text messages on their behalf. And so that's an example of something where it's rules-based, and if I push this button, I know that these conditions can happen, and these conditions should happen, right? So anything that you've systematized, right, that applies in the way that I've explained can be automated. But like I said, you can have human systems too, as long as you've documented and it's something that you can stick to emphatically and methodically, then it should be systematized. And very few things should be manual. Even if you're a writer, it's not like sitting down manually. You still set up structures to perform best. Even that can be systematized. Your ritual, like what do you do the days that you need to perform at your best? You want to know what I do just to stand up here? And this isn't even much from an energy standpoint, but I work out, I go to CrossFit. From there, I'll typically go to Chipotle. Everything starts with a C for whatever reason. I'll go to Chipotle, I'll get, whatever I get there, and then I'll go to cryotherapy, which is this little chamber capsule that I stand in for 3 minutes. Tony Robbins talks about it, Brendan Burchard talks about it, and it freezes me like at negative 175 degrees, gives me energy, and then I take nootropics. One is a guarana energizer, and another one is L-theanine. They synergistically work together to give me mental clarity and focus, and then I do some breathing, and then I stand up here to give you Automation Mondays, and I hardly mess up. Caesar, do I mess up? He's gonna chime in from the other room.
Starts with another C?
He says it starts with another C. What? Caesar starts with another C. He's a part of my process. But my point is, can you systematize even what you do to prepare you for seemingly manual work? Because it's not even manual, because I've even systematized what gets me to this point. You see what I mean? So manual, systems, automation. And it's your job to ascend, right? To have fewer manual things than you do systems, and hopefully fewer human systems than automated systems, but ascending up this chain and getting rid of some of the activity that's robbing you of your productivity, some of the reactive things that's robbing you of your proactive task and things that move the needle, that move you ahead, that progress you. MSA is your answer. And I talk about it in my sales synergy system if you're interested. Just head over to Automation Clinic for more information. So if you enjoyed this episode of Automation Mondays, I want to invite you to go over to automationmondays.com to check out past episodes. You can head over to my YouTube channel by just clicking the YouTube right here in this video. Subscribe so you can be the first to know when I release new videos. Get on my podcast, get on my Facebook, get connected so that you know when I'm doing new things. I'll be back for my next episode next Monday. But before then, subscribe, watch my archives, and just get in the zone at automationclinic.com. I'm Jermaine Griggs. I'm signing off this episode on behalf of Automation Clinic. Remember, let your business run itself.